I'm Reece Menny, the CEO of Hunter Jones. If you don't know who I am, most of you do. Some new faces. Thanks for coming. It's been a good day. Apologise for the weather. I can't do a lot about that, I'm afraid. Good day, though? Yeah. The golf course have been very kind, and what they've said is because of the weather, they'd like to invite us back down before February. So we will do it again. It'd be nice for you to come back down, but we'll let you know the dates. I know a lot of people have come because it's half term. So we'll try and do it maybe in February in a half term if that suits everybody. But I'll speak to the team and we'll let you guys know more about that closer to the time. So what I want to do, just run through a presentation. But before I do that, you've all got some bags on your table or on your chairs. Just run through what's in there just so that you've got a brief understanding of what we've put in the packs. First of all, there's this brochure here. The smart alternative to buy-to-let. This is our white paper, and what we've done, as I go through the presentation, it'll make more sense, but we worked with a developer 2 years ago who have now partnered up with, and the projects that we deal with are up north, what we're talking about today, Pontefract, Wakefield, and Bolton. And this white paper looks at if you was a buy-to-let investor and you had invested or bought a buy-to-let in them areas, what the returns would have been compared to if you had invested into our loan note, so you can see the difference of the two. I'm not going to ask you to read it now because it's 21 pages. It's quite detailed as well, but it's very good and it's got a lot of information in it, so when you've got spare time, something to take a look at. Also in there is the HJC brochure, slightly smaller. That tells you what we do. It's got our track record of what we've done previously with Empire. And more importantly, this document here is the first property that we've purchased, or the first development that we've purchased in HJC. It's got all the details of the development on there, and you'll get some more details of how we turn these into profits for investors as we go through. So what we're going to run through, just a welcome from me, which we've done. We've got the introduction to HJ Collection, and then we've got some prizes to give away as well for everybody that participated today. I haven't got a clicker today, so I've got somebody doing it for me. So how many of you here are buy-to-let owners? How many of you have got buy-to-lets at present? Quite a few of you, yeah? Number of landlords that have reduced by 120,000, okay, in the last few years. And what I'm going to do is run through why I think, and the research that my team's done, why that's happened, and hopefully you'll see and understand why we think that. Has anyone got any idea why at the moment?
Change of government laws,
yep.
Incentive,
yep.
Tax.
Correct. Everything that's on here. First of all, tax implements. Okay, you've got Section 24 that's come out, tax, capital gain tax now. So there are a lot of problems. What you used to get, benefits of being a buy-to-let holder or a developer or holding these assets, you'd get a lot more gains. And now they're tightening what you can make, okay? Boilers breaking down. Has anyone had that problem before? Sitting having dinner, tenants call you up, they've got a problem that need dealing with. Becomes a little bit of a headache. Voids on my next slide, long-term vacancies and voids. So all of these are ongoing problems that you have as a buy-to-let investor. Now, I'm a buy-to-let investor. I have buy-to-lets myself. You know, Brits love bricks. It's as simple as that. We love the security of bricks and mortar. But what we've done is we've teamed up with developers to give you the same security, but none of these problems that come with it, okay? If I stood here and said you could have the same security, okay, as what you've got as owning your properties, but I could show you 27.2% return over 2 years, the majority of you would probably, if you haven't invested with us already, would probably think I'm mad. Does anyone think that I'm mad? So the security, as I said, is exactly the same as holding them buy-to-lets, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So break it down. So what we've done and what we've done is we teamed up with this developer here, which is Empire Property Concepts, okay? they're a developer based up north. They're actually based in Doncaster. They specialise in something called permitted development rights. Has anyone here heard of permitted development rights before? First of all, any investors here invested with Empire with us? Just one. Okay, so two. Sorry, we've got two. So these two guys would have reaped the benefits of investing with Empire. But the good news is we've teamed up with Empire with HJ Collection, so you've now all got the opportunity to do that. What happens here is we've raised 6 million. So what we done, me and my team raised £6 million through investors like yourself, and that went to Empire Property Holdings at the time, which was a sister company to Empire Property Concepts. They go out and they purchase assets. The assets that they purchase is a permitted development right asset, okay, which is an unloved office building, which they can convert from office into residential by putting an application form in to the local council. Long as there's 3 tests done, highways, flood and noise, we will purchase these assets when we know that them 3 tasks are complete. So we've got a surveyor to complete them already. So we know that the day we purchase these, we can start working on them. Okay, so the day that we've spent £850,000 to purchase that exact asset, the day after we had a team go in, start stripping all of the office space out and convert it into residential. So we're going to break it down of how this particular project works. We raised £6 million. The first development we bought was £850,000. The development cost itself, just over 2.6 million. And you've got the income at the bottom. We've got a valuation on this particular project from a mainstream lender, okay, 7.7 million from an £850 asset. Now, the bizarre thing here is, guys, is that with £850,000, you couldn't buy the land and the materials to build that block. So we're already putting ourselves in front, or our investors, in a better position. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we've got a building that's already worth more than what we're paying for it because we physically couldn't build it for that cost. So that was the first one that we've done. But what we do is we run 3 alongside each other in this fund. So this was number 1. Luke. Number 2 was King Charles House. Again, so go back one, Luke. Purchase price 600,000. 2.1 to develop it. Again, a valuation at 6 million. Now you might say to yourself, well, anyone up here can turn around and say that that's what they was valued at. Okay? But what we've got, and which we're going to run through onto the slides, is we can show you if documents are signed, the actual refinancing documents that the people give us, mainstream lenders, at these valuations. These are not our valuations. These are the bank's valuations, the people that lent us the money to do that. Next one, mate. The same again, slightly smaller, 370,000. Give us a valuation of 2.3. These are the refinancing documents on screen. You can't see them clearly, but the refinancing. So we purchased them 3 assets, we stripped them out, and we converted them in 12 months from start to finish. Investors' money come in, the 3 developments were done. We got a refinancing value at 7.2 million in 12 months. That 7.2 million went back into the, let's call it a fund, the loan note, which investors have security over, and we went and purchased 2 other developments. In 12 months, the returns that we had to pay to investors if everybody went for the growth option for 2 years was 27.2%. So technically, in 12 months, we could have paid everybody back and had 3 assets, giving us an income-generating assets. But what we've done is we went and done another 2 projects at pure profit because investors have already been paid back. Is everyone with me so far? The question you're asking yourself is, what's your security? And I said at the beginning, the same as owning a buy-to-let. And what it is, where you lend us the money, the developer, we go and purchase these assets out of the money that you lend us. We then register a first charge in favour of the investors for a trustee, because as you know, you can only have 4 names on a title deed. So we can't have everybody on it. So what we do is we put it in the favour of a trustee. in this instance an FCA regulated trustee, holds the security on behalf of the investors. If at whatever point there's any problems in terms of default, anything that an investor is not happy with, the security trustee can call these assets back, take these assets away from us as a business because we own them, but technically you're in charge of them until we've paid you back. Does that make sense? The easiest way to explain it, if you're a little bit not sure, okay, is the same as when you go and buy your house. You go to the bank normally, the bank give you a mortgage. Why do they do that? Because they know if you don't pay them back, they've got an asset. So what we're doing is flipping it. Basically, you guys are being the bank, you're being the lender, and you're taking all of the headaches away from being the landlord. Yeah? Total GDV, once we'd completed all 5 developments, was 23.5 million. We raised 6 million. So you're probably now saying, why was the developer so greedy and he only gave me 27.2%? Investors were paid back 27.2. On here, obviously details blanked out for GDPR compliant reasons, but these are proof that the investors got their capital back. This is from the trustee. So what would happen is the trustee would write to the investors to say the money's been paid back into your account. Any problems, let us know in a certain time period. If not, we're going to release the first charges in favour of yourself. Very simple presentation. It's a very, very simple project. What we've done, that track record was all with Empire. What Empire done is they got a big refinancing in place with a big mainstream lender. So Paul Rothwell, the owner, very good friend of mine, the owner of Empire, refinanced his whole portfolio, £74 million portfolio. He's refinanced it all. And any debt he has now, he has to give them the first opportunity on. But what we've done is we've partnered up and formed Hunter Jones HJ Collection, which is the development company, okay, between me and Paul. And he's my developer, so he's doing all my developing. He appraises all my sites for me, because I'm an expert in raising funds. I'm not an expert in developing, okay, but he is. That's why I've teamed up with him. The first site you've got in front of you, which is in Barnsley, which is done. We've got 2 other sites under option already. Next door to Empire's head office, which is in Doncaster, and the other one is in Barnsley as well. And we've got one that we're looking at in St Helens, which is a very big site. So that's where we're going. He's doing all of our developing in this fund. We will look to use other developers if we want to, but at the moment we're purely working with him because we know that it works. Anyone got any questions?
So the rental figures that you used,
Yep.
Are they gross? Do they take into account any void periods, or are they like, the ultimate awesome 100% let all the time?
No, good, great question. So the figures that the mainstream lender runs on for us, because Paul's got a good track record of refinancing with them previously, is around 65 to 70%. But his portfolio at the moment, which we've refinanced, which we own, runs at about 83% occupancy at all times. So yeah, it's a very conservative valuation. And that's not our valuation. That's not my valuation or Paul's. That's what they give us personally, the banks. And we've got them documents if you want to see them.
You mentioned earlier on about your turnaround for your projects being 12 months. Is that correct? So is that
Each project varies. The quickest we've done is 6 months. Some take 18 months. It depends how complex they are, what building it is, and what we do. But typically, our comfort point is between 8 and 12 months.
And what has been, like, in your past experience, the longest amount of delay in getting a development site into?
Well, not in the loan notes. What Paul's done personally, and me and Paul's done personally, we've got one in Doncaster called Daneham House. That was a grade 2 listed building, so that took us slightly longer. It was PD on 4 floors, but the top floor was graded. So it took us just over 2.5 years to get, well, just under 2.5 years to get that from when we purchased it to completed. But Paul's got a very good track record. I mean, I've got a video that we've just shot with Paul, which we're going to be launching at our event on Saturday, which I didn't put into this presentation, but I specifically, well, I can send it out to everybody. I specifically asked him, what is a typical problems that you come up with? And as he says, if there is a site that he thinks is going to take longer, if it's going to take longer than what the time frame is for the loan note, we just won't put it in there. So we will only put sites in there that we know that we can get completed within 12 to 18 months as a maximum.
Okay, just say, for argument's sake, that there is some reason for some delay.
Yep, happens.
Which is obviously not in your control, or whatever the reason may be. What guarantee do you offer to your investors to say,
yeah,
well, actually, hold on, I need my 50k back, 100k back, whatever it may be. Do you have an option to be able to
it's a great question. I can give you a twofold answer. The loan notes themselves are fixed, so they're not transferable. So what that means is if you invest in it's a 2-year period, it means you can't wake up one day and you just want your money back, and because we could have a run on the bank. But we're human beings, we run our business on principles. So if somebody come to us that had a serious problem, we would look at it case by case, and we have give people their money back or got them out of the loan note in them cases. If a development takes longer than it should do, obviously we don't want to default because you're holding all of our assets. So what's in the loan note is we've got an extension that we can extend that 2-year period for another 6 months before we can have an option to extend the loan note for another 6 months at the same rate of, so you'd still carry on accruing interest. But if we couldn't get them completed by that time, and there was a serious problem, which there would be a serious problem at that time if we can't get them completed, then it would be down to the investors to take a call whether you would want to repossess the assets, take ownership of the assets and sell them. But that would be the worst case scenario. Yeah?
It's another worst case scenario. Let's say, as you said, the banks have first charge if it was a mortgage.
If it was a mortgage, yeah.
Yeah, if it's a negative equity and the bank just want to get rid of it and so on.
Yeah.
Could we fall into the same category as such as investors?
Of course you could. Your security is the assets.
Yeah.
At what time and where we are in the world and what's going on, could them assets be worth less than what your investment is? Potentially, yes. But has an asset in property ever been valued at zero? Everything fluctuates. But you've got a hard asset that's always going to have a value of some sort. And as I said, we eliminate that because of how quick we streamline. So when we purchase the asset, from the day we start stripping out, we're adding value to that asset. So if it's worth 850 on day one, time we're a couple of months in, it's probably worth in a fire sale, in my opinion, 1.2 million, because it's closer to being a residential development than an office now, which has got more value. So we're always adding value. Also, one thing that I missed, you're always in a positive, because when we're purchasing, we're cash purchasers. So we can negotiate best on the term of when we buy. So that development that we purchased for 850, I think it was on the market for just under £1 million. But because we're a cash purchaser, we can negotiate a better deal. So we're always getting them below market value, the assets that we're purchasing. So we're always in front. So we're adding value from day one.
I've got a twofold question. The example in Doncaster you just said for 850 building.
Wakefield, yep. But yeah.
Wakefield, sorry. Now, the first question is, if your track record, if your returns, what you're promising to investors like ourselves,
Yep.
say 1% or 1.5% per annum, in your case as much as 27%.
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years,
Yeah.
yeah. So roughly about 1% a month.
Correct.
Now, obviously, isn't it cheaper for you
To go to the bank?
mainstream lenders,
Great question.
and you would have all the benefits.
I wish that I put the video on, but I'll explain. Same question that we spoke on the video with Paul when we was on camera. Technically, we can go to the mainstream lender because we go to them and refinance. Once we've refinanced, they're happy to throw money at us. They want to give us their money because they say that the risk is gone, it's developed. We use the mainstream lenders as well on some developments that we do instead of using the loan note, because sometimes the loan note doesn't have enough money in it. We haven't raised quick enough, so we use other lending. We don't put all assets into the loan note. There's only a certain amount as a business. If we go to a mainstream lender, we need to put 30, maybe 35% down and then draw down from senior debt. There's only a certain amount of 30% that one company's got, number one. And number two, the amount of red tape that we have to jump through with a mainstream lender on development finance sometimes means that the asset would already been sold by the time they've done their due diligence and they're happy. The reason that we use a loan note, quite frankly, it works out about the same as bridging for us, but we can streamline the process and we can do more developments at a quicker rate. If we'd done it one at a time, we couldn't show anything like that, them returns, because the reason that we can do that is because we do 3 in a year. If we would probably do 1 or 2 in a year if we done it all through mainstream lending. But we can do that. We've got no problem with using mainstream lenders, but this makes our business grow a hell of a lot quicker and we're in a position to do that.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Based on what you've said so far, you're giving us the picture that your assessment of the developer is based on the financial return. I'm sure you go much further than that. Would you care to?
Correct, yes. So, not just the return. The returns are fantastic. But I've had this conversation with a few people today. How do I assess a developer? I don't have a crystal ball. Everybody knows that when making an investment, there's an element of risk in everything that we do. I work with a developer, as I said, at least 3 to 6 months before I like to introduce them to anybody in this room. And it normally comes down to my gut instinct, if I'm honest, because I work with them, I get a feel for the kind of person they are, what their morals are, what their principles are, how they run their business. But more importantly, we look for developers that have worked with either mainstream lending or worked with investors and they've got a track record of paying back. And also investors that have had their own skin in the game. And what I mean by that is they've actually tested what they're trying to do with investors' money before they've done it. Because as I was explaining, I probably get 10 or 15 different opportunities come across my desk every month of developers saying, Rees, can Hunter Jones raise capital for us? I can probably count on one hand out of them 10, 15, the amount of them that are actually developers or have actually got a track record of producing new homes. So we have to be careful, but I wouldn't stand here and introduce to you people anything that I'm not already involved with or I've already made a personal investment into. That's how I carry our level of due diligence. At the moment, touch wood, we've got a very good track record of picking the right ones. We're in a strange time at the moment, and I'm painting a good picture of Empire. They're a fantastic developer. The biggest risk in this opportunity is the refinancing mechanism. Because if the mainstream lenders stop lending, we're left holding assets that are income generating, okay, but we can't refinance to give investors their money back, okay? So, but the way that I look at that and the way that I assess that is that, if that was the case, me and my investors have got more to worry about than our investment. If the mainstream lenders are going to tighten the knot and not give any money out whatsoever, we would still have assets that are income generating. So we would then sit down and say, well, look, to investors, we can't get refinanced. The reason we can't get refinanced is the situation of what we're in, whether it be Brexit, whatever it be, the problem, why they stopped refinancing, another credit crunch. So mainstream lending slows down. They won't refinance. We've got assets that are giving us an income. Would it make sense for investors to take ownership of them assets to try and refinance if we can't refinance? Probably not, because if we can't refinance, how could you? So we could continue to service paying the interest until such time that we could refinance and obviously get you out the marketplace. Or we could sell the whole units as an ongoing concern to a pension fund, an insurance company that want high yield income generating assets. Or we could section each individual apartment up and sell them to buy-to-let investors that want to hold and want the headache of being a buy-to-let investor. So you've got 3 exits really. So we've eliminated that as well, but people say to me, Reece, what's the biggest risk? That's the biggest risk in this whole process. Does that make sense? But I think we've eliminated that as much as possible.
You said that when you are looking at a potential developer that you're going to partner with,
Yep.
you look at moral and the principles.
Yeah, of what they've done really, yeah.
Yeah, could you explain a bit more about the moral and the principles that you look at?
It varies. Well, it's, as I said, it's more of a gut instinct. It's how they run their business, what kind of people they've got working for them, what they've done previously. Have they been delayed? If they have been delayed, have they been transparent and saying, look, we had this site, it overrun slightly? Because you can sit in front of a developer that's a large, I've done it plenty of times, it's a large developer that's completed on everything that they've done. So their track record in black and white looks fantastic. But what you don't know is everything that they've completed on, they was meant to complete on 8 months prior, but they don't tell you that. So that's my principle. If I'm gonna come in, you're gonna open your book, you're gonna tell me what you've done, I'm gonna walk away, I'm gonna give it to my team, and my team are gonna come back to me and say, some of this is factually correct and some of it's not. If it's not all factually correct and there's stuff that, whether they say, oh, we didn't tell you because we didn't think you didn't ask the question, in my opinion, their principles are not right. You should tell me everything from day dot, and you should open your book and say, this was the problem, this is how we dealt with it, or this is the problem, this is how we dealt with it, and still got investors out the market. You know, we understand there's problems, but transparency is what we run Hunter Jones on. Yeah, we like to keep everybody up to date on everything that goes on. So that's the answer to that.
If you're only using one developer?
No, only today I'm talking about one developer. Oh, we've got multiple developers.
Okay, fine, let's ask my question.
But at the minute, HJC uses Empire, which is Paul Rothwell. But as a corporate company, the regulated company, which is Hunter Jones, we've got 4 developers. On Saturday, all 4 developers will be there. And running on to that, we've got an event on Saturday at the Hilton Canary Wharf. It's our biggest event that we've put on. Got some industry experts speaking. We've got an MP speaking about the housing crisis that we've got in the UK right now, how many new homes we need, how Parliament are going to help rectify that if they can. So if you want to come along, more than free to come down and see what you think. All the developers will be there doing a presentation as well. So we always say, you know, we've got a chauffeur driver that will pick people up, investors up from anywhere in the country and take them to the developments, the developers. Seeing's believing, in my opinion. You know, don't just take my word for it or my team's word for it. Go and see the developments. If we can't answer the questions that you want answering, don't invest. You know, that is my number one. We only want people that are working with us that believe and have seen theirself and made their own decision based on all the information that we've provided them.
Which, on the various developments you've done, say, over the last 5 years,
Yep.
As an industry average, have they all overrun, or were they...
Of ones that we've done?
Yeah.
No, the 5 that I've spoke about, all of in terms of overrunning the loan note or overrun in-house for us?
The actual project, you know?
No, so in the loan note, we've never had anything that's overrun in this project with Empire. In-house, the timeframes that we give ourselves, yes, they overrun. So we expect to finish something in 7 months, and it's took us 8 months. But that doesn't affect investors in any way, shape or form, because it's a 2-year fixed loan note.
Talking about risk,
Yep.
I see potentially another risk in the future.
Okay.
A lot of this PDs that are happening right now, there's a lot of developers doing that. There
A lot of people have jumped on it, yep.
And there are only certain number of offices throughout the country.
Yeah.
You're going to run out of office space
Yeah.
to do this. So how far do you project this lasting, and will that be the end of your business plan?
Okay, HJ Collection, okay, is permitted development. We're raising and developing with Paul. We've sat down and spoke about it. Paul believes that we've got, he's guy on the ground up north reckons we've got about 5 year worth of supply left in office buildings up north that we can take advantage of. Then the business model moving forward, in the meantime, as I said previously, about principles, and one of my steps is if a developer hasn't trialled it first, we won't introduce it. Me and Paul are going to start building from the ground up. Well, Paul's going to be building from the ground up, but we're going to be using a different kind, not modular builds, but we're going to be using a different form of brick which Paul's brought into the company, which is a northern company as well. But we'll be trialling that personally first, so we've got 5 years to trial it and get it right before the office space runs out, and then we would potentially offer that out to investors. That's as HJ Collection. As Hunter Jones, the introducing agent, okay, we've got different developers that don't all do PD. So HJC is a developer of Hunter Jones, is an introducer. That's a PD scheme. Magna and Verto, they build from the ground up. So they're completely separate companies. So not everything we do is PD, but what we're talking about today is the launch of HJ Collection, which specialises in permitted development rights.
Would there be a big differential between the returns on a PD versus a ground up build?
No, not really. Well, if you look at it at the moment, Verto and Magna pay slightly higher returns than other developers that do permitted development rights in return to investors. But then you've got to look at yourself, you've got to assess what you're looking for. Magna can pay a better rate of return because they're buying parcels of land and they've got to go and gain planning permission on some of their sites to get the uplift. Some of the developers that I'll sit around the table with would say, well, Reece, I don't really want to be involved with a planning risk because it's good if they get it. It's not great if they don't get it. They're left with an asset that's got no extra value in it. Yet PD is a little bit more boring because, you know, it's unloved office space in northern cities that are not very popular, but they need new homes and there's rental demand. So it's really what you're looking for as an investor, and you need to assess that yourself. But in my opinion, not just because I'm involved with HJC, I don't think, some of my sales team might be different, you know, we're not allowed to guide people, but 95% of my money in the sector was in Empire before Empire paid everybody back. And that's why I've teamed up with them to do HJ Collection, and that's why they're my #1 developer. Because I know it works, I know it's simple, and in my opinion, we've eliminated 80-90% of the risk. You're right, we will run out of office spaces, and it's a shame. But that's something that we've got to deal with. We will do what we're doing and reap the benefits for ourselves and our investors as much as we can until we do run out.
I noticed, sorry. So that's in the UK, but you're talking about European.
Yep, European.
Well. So is that then past the 5-year time frame we look at?
Well, that's a different developer.
Right.
That do overseas. So HJ Collection just do UK. But Hunter Jones have got other developers that do work overseas.
You know, in terms of that purchase price, you said you raised 6 million and you bought 3 places, 850. Of that 6 million, how much are you putting in, or what's the equity? It's
100% raised from investors. So what we do is we structure the project, and then because that project there itself had an income option on it, we had to make sure there was enough cash in the bank. So we put $500,000 equity in to make sure within 6 months, because you can't pay investors back out of investors' capital. So we had to make sure that there was enough money in the bank that if we hadn't refinanced in 6-7 months' time, or 6 months' time, investors still had the money in the bank to pay them back. But the answer to your question is loan to value is 100%. Because the reason that we give 100% is because we give a first charge. We can't go and get any other debt from anywhere else because then investors won't have a first charge.
But there's no equity underneath that, so you're not putting anything.
Well, we put the setup in, so there was $500,000 put in from us. In HJC, there's $500,000 put in from me as well and Paul, but that's it. Everything else comes from investors.
When you say you have a team,
Yep.
who's your team?
Do you want to stand up, guys? This is half of them. We're not all here today, but this is some of them. So most of my senior guys are here today. Then we've got the developers. We've got some more back office. We've got some more sales people as well, and we're growing our management team and our analyst team as we grow as a company. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Hopefully you've been beneficial. Hopefully you got some value. What we do. Also, I've got a podcast out, which is Many Talks. Top 25 globally when we launched on iTunes. Had some serial entrepreneurs on, some big property developers, Simon Zucci, Grant Cardone from America, Charlie Edwards, WBC world champion. If you haven't listened already, there's some good information on there. Have a listen, give us some feedback. We're always interviewing different people. We interview our developers as well, so they're on there. Thanks for listening, and yeah, we're going to do the prizes after.